In just 47 seconds, $2.3 billion in federal contracts. Senator Dick Durbin didn't stand at the podium. He walked in like a prosecutor, carrying the weight of justice itself. Cameras stopped rolling mid-sentence. The Senate chamber fell silent like a tomb. What did Durbin reveal in those classified files that made two of America's most powerful officials watch their careers crumble in real time? At exactly 2:17 p.m. on Tuesday, Senator Dick Durbin entered Committee Room 216 carrying a black briefcase that would change everything. His face was carved in determination, jaw set like granite. Behind him, two FBI agents flanked the entrance, while Capitol security sealed every exit. Something was different. Something was final. Kash Patel sat at the witness table. Navy suit pressed to perfection. FBI credentials gleaming under the harsh committee lights. His hands rested confidently on the mahogany surface, fingers interlaced like a man who owned the room. To his right, Pam Bondi adjusted her pearl necklace, legal briefs arranged in perfect stacks before her. Both had prepared for routine confirmation questioning. Neither had prepared for what was coming. "The committee will come to order," Durbin's voice cut through the tension like a blade. His Illinois accent carried an edge that made seasoned reporters lean forward in their seats. Today's hearing was supposed to focus on standard FBI oversight. That changes now. Patel's eyes narrowed slightly. Something in Durbin's tone triggered his investigative instincts, honed by years of federal prosecution. Bondi's hand moved almost imperceptibly toward her briefing folder, a lawyer's defensive reflex. "Mr. Patel, Ms. Bondi," Durbin continued, his gaze fixed on documents only he could see. "Before we proceed with your testimonies, I need to share something with this committee, something that arrived at my office at 6:23 this morning via encrypted delivery from a federal whistleblower." The briefcase clicked open with surgical precision. Inside, manila folders marked with red classification stamps caught the overhead lights. 8/15/58 documents. Each one a potential political nuclear weapon. "These are the Epstein files," Durbin announced with devastating calm. "Not the redacted versions, not the sanitized summaries, the complete, unedited intelligence reports spanning 15 years of federal surveillance." Patel's confident expression cracked for exactly 1.7 seconds. His knuckles went white against the dark wood. Bondi's face drained of color as she processed the implications. In the gallery, CNN correspondent Jake Tapper frantically signaled his camera crew. Fox News cut to breaking news alerts. Twitter exploded with Durbin files within 60 seconds. "Senator," Patel interrupted, his voice steady but strained, "I object to the introduction of classified materials without proper—" "Mr. Patel," Durbin's interruption was surgical. "These files detail financial transactions between Jeffrey Epstein's network and individuals currently being considered for the highest levels of federal law enforcement. Would you like me to read the specific amounts, or would you prefer to address them yourself?" The room temperature seemed to drop 10 degrees. Committee members exchanged glances that spoke volumes. Republican Senator Ted Cruz shifted uncomfortably in his chair. Democratic Senator Amy Klobuchar leaned forward, sensing blood in the water. 47 seconds passed in absolute silence. Then everything exploded. The third document in this stack, Durbin's voice remained clinical, devastating in its precision, details a $80,047,000 wire transfer from a shell company linked to Epstein's financial network to a consulting firm that employed Mr. Patel during his transition from the Trump administration. Patel's chair scraped against marble as he stood abruptly. "That's a complete fabrication. I demand to see the source documentation." But Durbin wasn't finished. His finger traced down another page with the patience of a surgeon making an incision. Page 47 of the FBI surveillance logs indicates that Ms. Bondi's law firm received $1.2 million in legal fees from entities connected to Epstein's associates between 20. Bondi's pearl necklace trembled as her breathing became visible. Senator Durbin, I categorically deny any knowledge. The payments, Durbin continued, relentlessly, were processed through 3 different offshore accounts, each designed to obscure the ultimate source of funding. The FBI's Financial Crimes Division flagged these transactions for further investigation in March. Camera flashes erupted like lightning strikes. The committee room descended into controlled chaos as reporters realized they were witnessing a political execution in real time. Security moved to maintain order while keeping the proceedings live on C-SPAN. Patel's tactical mind, trained by years of federal investigations, began calculating damage control scenarios. His eyes darted between the exit doors and the cameras, weighing options that were evaporating by the second. Bondi reached for her water glass with a hand that betrayed the slightest tremor. Furthermore, Durbin's voice cut through the din like a prosecutor delivering a closing argument. Encrypted communications recovered from Epstein's personal devices reference both Mr. Patel and Bondi by name in contexts that raise serious questions about their fitness for federal law enforcement positions. The psychological impact was immediate and devastating. Patel's confident prosecutor persona cracked completely, revealing the man underneath who suddenly understood that his carefully constructed career was crumbling in real time. Bondi's legal training kicked in, but her usual courtroom composure faltered under the weight of evidence she couldn't cross-examine. I need to consult with counsel, Patel announced, his voice hoarse with the recognition of impending political death. Mr. Patel, Durbin replied with the patience of inevitability, these proceedings are broadcast live to the American people. Your counsel can review the documents, but the questions remain. How do you explain financial connections to Jeffrey Epstein's network while seeking to lead the FBI? The question hung in the air like smoke from a political funeral pyre. In newsrooms across America, editors frantically rewrote headlines. Patel and Bondi connected to Epstein network scrolled across CNN's Chiron. Fox News anchors struggled to provide context for revelations that shattered their prepared talking points. Bondi attempted a legal counterstrike. Senator, without proper authentication procedures, these documents could be fabricated, manipulated, or taken completely out of context. Durbin smiled the cold smile of a prosecutor who had anticipated every defense. Ms. Bondi, these documents were authenticated by the FBI's Document Analysis Unit, certified by the NSA's cryptographic verification systems, and corroborated by Treasury Department financial intelligence. Would you like me to read the authentication reports? The trap was perfect. Demanding to see the authentication would confirm the documents' legitimacy. Dismissing them would appear desperate. Bondi's legal experience told her she was trapped in a courtroom with no viable defense strategy. Social media erupted with surgical precision. Epstein files trended globally within minutes. Patel-Bondi scandal followed immediately after. Political commentators who had prepared routine confirmation analysis found themselves covering the biggest scandal since Watergate. In those 47 seconds between Durbin's revelation and the explosive aftermath, 2 political careers died spectacular public deaths. The American people watched in real time as their potential FBI director and attorney general nominees went from confident public servants to defensive figures scrambling for political survival. The psychological warfare was complete. Durbin had used the one weapon that destroyed political careers faster than any scandal: documented financial connections to America's most notorious criminal network. In an era where political figures survived countless controversies, association with Jeffrey Epstein remained the third rail of American politics. As the committee room descended into controlled chaos, one truth became crystal clear. Sometimes the most powerful weapon in Washington isn't a legal brief or a congressional subpoena. It's 8,158 documents delivered at exactly the right moment to end careers with surgical precision. The confirmation hearings were indefinitely postponed. The nominations were withdrawn by evening. Two political futures were destroyed in less time than it takes to brew a cup of coffee. But the destruction wasn't finished. As Patel and Bondi sat in stunned silence, Durbin opened a second folder marked Priority Alpha Classification. There's more. His voice carried the weight of political graveyards. Document 4847 contains phone records showing 23 calls between Mr. Patel's personal device and numbers registered to Epstein associates during the final months of the Trump administration. Patel's face went ashen. His mouth opened, but no words emerged. Years of prosecutorial training couldn't prepare him for being on the receiving end of such devastating evidence. His hands trembled as he reached for his water glass, missing it entirely on the first attempt. The calls, Durbin continued with surgical precision, occurred during the exact time frame when classified FBI files related to the Epstein investigation were being reviewed for potential declassification. Coincidence, Mr. Patel? The accusation hung in the air like a death sentence. Republican committee members began distancing themselves with visible body language, leaning away from the toxic testimony. Senator Lindsey Graham audibly whispered to his aide, "Get me a statement draft. Distance us from this immediately." Bondi attempted one final legal maneuver, her voice barely above a whisper. "These allegations are circumstantial at best. Phone records prove nothing about content." "Ms. Bondi," Durbin interrupted with the patience of a hunter who had cornered his prey. "The NSA transcripts of those conversations are in folder 3. Would you like me to read them aloud, or would you prefer to maintain your current position?" The bluff was called. Bondi's legal training told her that NSA transcripts were nearly impossible to fabricate and even harder to dismiss in court. Her career in law had taught her to recognize when a case was lost. This was that moment. At exactly 2:52 p.m., Patel stood abruptly, his chair scraping against marble with a sound like fingernails on a chalkboard. "I invoke my Fifth Amendment rights and will not be answering any further questions without counsel present." The committee room erupted. Constitutional law professors would later analyze this moment as the exact second when a confirmation hearing became a criminal proceeding. Taking the fifth during a Senate confirmation was political suicide, but continuing to answer questions with such evidence looming was legal suicide. Bondi followed 30 seconds later, her voice barely audible above the media chaos. "I also request counsel and invoke my constitutional protections against self-incrimination." The destruction was complete. Two nominees for the highest levels of American law enforcement had just pleaded the Fifth Amendment on live television. The irony was devastating. Individuals seeking to lead federal law enforcement invoking constitutional protections typically reserved for criminal defendants. Committee Chairman Chuck Grassley, visibly shaken by the proceedings, banged his gavel repeatedly. "This hearing is suspended indefinitely, pending legal review of the presented evidence." But Durbin wasn't finished with his political execution. As cameras continued rolling and security moved to clear the room, he delivered the final blow. The American people deserve to know that these 8,158 documents represent only the first batch. Additional files are being reviewed by federal prosecutors as we speak. The investigation into financial connections between Jeffrey Epstein's network and current government officials is ongoing and expanding. The psychological impact was immediate and total. Not only were Patel and Bondi's careers destroyed, but every current official with any connection to Epstein's network now lived under the shadow of impending investigation. Durbin had weaponized transparency to create a political nuclear winter. Within hours, Both nominations were formally withdrawn. By evening, 3 additional government officials had resigned to spend time with family. By midnight, Epstein-gate was trending globally as international media picked up the story of American government officials connected to the world's most notorious criminal network. The White House press secretary faced a media bombardment at 8 p.m., stammering through non-answers as reporters demanded explanations. "The president maintains full confidence in our vetting process," became the evening's most mocked soundbite, as cable news played it on endless loop alongside footage of Patel and Bondi invoking the Fifth. And Dick Durbin? He simply closed his briefcase and walked out of the room, leaving behind the gogging remains of 2 careers and the undeniable proof that in Washington, the truth doesn't just set you free. Sometimes it buries you alive. What happens when the most carefully guarded secrets become public weapons? If transparency can't survive political ambition, was the system ever really working? The 851-58 files that changed everything proved that sometimes justice comes not from the courts, but from the courage to reveal what was hidden in plain sight. This dramatized story is inspired by real events and public figures. All dialogue and incidents are fictionalized for commentary and educational purposes. This is not intended to defame, but to explore themes of power, truth, and accountability in American politics.